Welcome to NSEN. I'm Jordan Taylor.
And I'm Kaya Carmona, and your sports start now.
The Blue Raiders had a good showing this past weekend in Murfreesboro. The Blue Raiders finished off a weekend series with the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns on Sunday. The Raiders opened up the weekend series on Friday when they scored 10 unanswered runs to take the first game of the series 12-5. MT then got 3 big home runs in Saturday's game to lift them to a 7-5 victory. Those wins then set up the Blue Raiders for a chance for their first sweep over the Cajuns. The Raiders were able to take the third game of the series 9-3. These wins gave MT their first Sun Belt Conference wins of the year, and the team will be back in action tonight at 6 when they travel to Memphis to take on the Tigers.
Veteran member of the Blue Raider football team took to the field, but not for team purposes. The National Football League visited Murfreesboro and brought several guests, NFL team scouts. Anthony Amos and other receivers were on the main talents to tap as he went deep for some passes from senior quarterback Jeff Murphy. Carlos Lopez lined up for a 60-yard field goal attempt to prove his leg strength in front of many scouts, but mainly the New York Giants. He followed that off by doing practice kickoffs. The players were hoping to prove to the scouts that they can play for a pro team.
The Nashville Predators were hoping they could continue their winning streak. The Predators welcomed the Edmonton Oilers to Smashville last night, but the game didn't quite start off like the Preds were hoping, as Edmonton was able to find the back of the net just 8 minutes into the game. But that's when Nashville was able to take control. Sergei Kostitsyn was able to find the net with just 8 minutes left in the first. The Preds then opened up the game in the second. Kevin Klein put Nashville up 1 with his goal 5.5 minutes into the period. And then 6 minutes later, Chris Moeller was able to add another goal to the Preds' lead. Edmonton was able to pull within 1 in the third, but the Preds were able to hold on to the 1-goal lead and took the game 3-2. This victory is the Preds' third in a row, putting them into 8th in the Western Conference.
Now off to another great subject, Cinderella stories. Even though neither MTSU team fared well in their tournaments, both teams had tremendous seasons. But the Sweet 16 is set to tip off tomorrow, and there is a team that came in under the radar. Here's Florida Gulf Coast, the 15th seed, hyping up to take home San Diego State and running onto the court. First big possession, and just watch this. That's right, number 0, Brett Comer, to number 12, Eric McKnight, for the huge dunk to lengthen their lead. And that wasn't the only thing McKnight could do. On the other end of the ball, McKnight swats the shot away for number 23, Deshaun Stevens, and gives a nasty stare down at the end. Florida Gulf Coast won their matchup against SDSU 81-71 and became the first 15 seed in the NCAA tournament to advance to the Sweet 16. Their next game is up against the Florida Gators in the house that Jerry built, Cowboy Stadium, Thursday night. This is not only the first year FGC made the tournament, but it's also their first year eligible, and it is this basketball program's 11th year alive.
With being the 15th seed, FGCU has done what any other 15th seed hasn't done in the history of the NCAA tournament. They've successfully reached the Sweet 16, the few key victories over San Diego State and the famous Georgetown. This team has been playing on the most prestigious levels in the tournament and in their school's history. But will this team overcome the challenges they have coming in the tournament? After all, they have the leadership of guard Bernard Thompson and star Sherrod Brown. I believe this team has a chance to make it to the Final Four, as being the underdog team they are. They'll be judged, but don't doubt this upcoming team. With so much potential and the talent this team will make it far into the brackets.
John Wall led the Washington Wizards to a 107-94 win over the Memphis Grizzlies in Monday night's game. Wall had a career high of 19 made free throws out of 24 attempts, 47 points, of which 26 were acquired within the first half, and added 8 assists to the game as well. This was Washington's 6th straight home win, forcing Memphis to have their 4th road game loss. The Wiz will head back on the road to face Kevin Durant and the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight.
The NBA's second longest winning streak got one win closer to becoming the longest. The Miami Heat took their 26-game winning streak into Orlando last night to take on the Magic. This game started off back and forth like many games throughout the streak, and it looked like Orlando may give the Heat some trouble. But the Heat were able to gain control late in the second and took a 55-46 lead into the locker room. But the Magic wouldn't go away. Late in the third quarter, they were able to tie the game at 68. The Heat then went on a 13-0 run to end the third and start the fourth. Miami was able to take this game 108-94. This marks the 27th win in a row for the Heat, and they are now only 6 games away from tying the 71-72 Lakers for the longest winning streak in NBA history.
Dwayne Wade has found himself sitting out for the Heat's past 2 games. Wade was scheduled prior to Monday's game for an MRI on his right knee. He says he bruised the knee on March 3rd in a game against the Orlando Magic and re-aggravated it once again in last week's victory over the Boston Celtics. The MRI showed no damage as Wade predicted, but still wanted to have it performed to make sure. The Heat have had an exceptional season, winning their last 27 games in a row, which is the second longest winning streak in the league history. Wade is the team's second leading scorer in averaging 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 64 games, and is shooting the best field goal percentage of his career this season. But with only 11 regular season games remaining, getting healthy is his main priority, overshadowing his want to support his team's pursuit in history in these past few games. Heat coach Erik Spoelstra said Wade is making progress and has been getting a lot of treatments and is feeling better each day. The Heat are set to play in Dwayne's hometown against Chicago Bulls tonight.
Tiger Woods is on top of the world once again. Woods won the Arnold Palmer Invitation on Monday, which reinstated him as #1 in the world golf ranks. Like his 2 other wins this year, Woods did not let anyone get close than the 2 shots in his final rounds, ending with 2 under 70. Woods walked off the 18th hole waving his putter over his head. This was the win he's been waiting for. Woods went 124 weeks without being #1, even falling as low as 58 in the world during the collapse of his marriage, an injury to his left leg, and the loss of sponsors. This was the longest dry spell of Woods' career. It will be interesting to see how long Woods stays on top this time. Next up for Woods is the Masters in Athens, Georgia, where he hasn't won since 2005.
Well, defensive players finally got the justice they were looking for. The crown rule, implemented on March 20th, penalizes offensive players for mainly running backs for leading with the crown of their helmet. The competition committee, compiled of the league's owners, passed the rule in a convincing 31-1 vote. Bengals owner Mike Brown was the only one courageous enough to vote against it. Looking past the allure of player safety, which is highly important but appears to be being abused with recent rule changes, which are extracting toughness and the big hit from the game. The rule has caused mixed emotions throughout the league. While some players understand the rule, most of the players in the league and former players are outraged by the rule. Matt Forte, running back for the Bears, calls the new rule an absurd idea. Hall of Fame running backs Emmitt Smith and Marshall Faulk are livid over the rule change. On the other hand, Cleveland Brown Hall of Fame Jim Brown encourages the new rule. Ron Clark, safety of the Pittsburgh Steelers, disagrees with the rule and says the tough guy is being eliminated from football.
Safety Bernard Pollard has become the latest player to leave as the mass exodus continues for the Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens. The list of players leaving the Ravens continues to grow, with Pollard signing with the Tennessee Titans. The Ravens have already lost defensive end Paul Kruger, wide receiver Anquan Bolden, linebacker Donnell Ellerbe, cornerback Kerry Williams, and future Hall of Fame safety Ed Reed. Oh, and there's also the retirement of one of the greatest players of all time, linebacker Ray Lewis. In other news, the Atlanta Falcons are on the verge of signing former Giants defensive end Osi Umenyiora. The New Orleans Saints and the San Francisco 49ers are the 2 teams pursuing free agent cornerback Nnamdi Asomugha, and that the former Pro Bowler is torn between the 2 teams. The Denver Broncos are reportedly making a hard push for former Colts great Dwight Freeney, which would reunite him with former teammate Peyton Manning. And tight end Jermichael Finley has chosen to stay with the Green Bay Packers. For NSEN, I'm CJ Ecke.
Going from sprinting down the field to 200-mile-per-hour speeds, NASCAR took to the track Sunday in California. Fenders weren't the only things rubbing after the 500-mile race. Final lap, final turn, and Joey Logano inches up the track, bumping into the 11 of Denny Hamlin, and Hamlin ends up turning him into the wall. Hamlin then shoots across the track at about 180 miles an hour while slamming on his brakes, and watch this how hard he slams into that wall. His car was lifted at least 3 feet in the air before it slammed back down and slid to a halt. With rescue crews on the scene in no time, Denny Hamlin gets out of his car but collapses to a heap under the ground, and paramedics ended up having to call the ambulance to transport him to the infield care center. That's Tony Stewart as he confronts Joey Logano, and the fist fight starts between the two teams on pit road. The crews get into a shoving match and 2 punches are thrown. All of this happens after Logano crowds and blocks Tony Stewart onto the apron before the final restart of the race. An update from Denny Hamlin through text messages indicates that he might be out with a couple weeks with a fractured back. The next race is 2 weeks away.
After suffering a controversial loss and devastating knockout, many wonder if boxing sensation Manny Pacquiao will ever return to the ring. Well, wait no more. Manny has announced that he plans to make his return in September. It was originally speculated that he would return in April, but with concerns with his health after the last fight he took, he decided to give his body a little more time to prepare. As far as whom Pacquiao will face in September, the talk is most likely it will be Marquez once again. After the way the last fight ended, another potential bout would be a cash cow for all parties involved. For NSEN, I'm Kevin Mumphrey.
Booyah!
By now, I know you're tired of hearing about stats and scores, so here's what's going on this week in sports entertainment. Your favorite ex-reality TV couple is making headlines again. Basketball Wives star Evelyn Lozada is warning her ex-husband Chad Johnson to stop harassing her. The former Miami Dolphins player was sent a letter on Thursday by Evelyn's lawyer after he blasted her on Twitter, accusing her of cheating with the member of YMCMB. Now, Lozada's friends say the statements are false, and if he doesn't stop, a restraining order will be filed. The couple split back in July after Lozada filed for divorce when Johnson was arrested for the infamous headbutt. New York Yankees star Andrew Jones is in a nasty custody battle with his wife Nicole Jones over their 9-year-old son. Andrew claims he's the better parent despite being arrested just 2 months ago for domestic violence. The pair were married for 10 years, but Nicole Jones filed for divorce back in January after the MLB star was arrested for choking and dragging her through a garage. Nicole wants physical custody and the prenup voided, but Andrew fired back with documents stating he should get primary custody and not pay a dime in child support. The UFC has yet to accept transgendered mixed martial artist Fallon Fox, but Hulk Hogan says Fox is welcome in his ring any day. The Hulk says not only will he take on Fox, he will crush her. Now that is a fight I would like to see. One Real Housewife is headed for divorce. Former Pittsburgh Steelers player Cordell Stewart has filed for divorce from his wife Portia Williams, who is a cast member on Bravo's Real Housewives of Atlanta. A divorce petition was filed Friday at Fulton County Superior Court in Atlanta. Stewart says their marriage is irretrievably broken. He also says Williams is an able-bodied person, earning income, and is capable of taking care of herself, and asks that neither side be ordered to pay alimony. It seems like a lot of couples are going through it this week. That is it for this week's sports entertainment. Be sure to join us next week for NSEN Sports. I'm Parrish Hodges.